Ahead and get started. We are so excited to have you join us for our second of 5 student, faculty, and staff panels to tell you a little bit about what it's like to be a student here at Ursinus College. So for those of you who maybe joined us yesterday, hello again. I'm Sam Carter, Associate Director of Admission. As you explore most of our offerings at your own pace, a reminder to everyone out there, there's a video on the Admitted Student Experience page afterwards as well. If at any point you're experiencing difficulties, you can't hear folks, go ahead and click that closed captioning button right in the top right hand corner of your screen, the CC button, and that will allow you a version of all of the audio going on here as well. So I have a fantastic group of panelists joining me here today. Introduce themselves, tell a little bit about your role on campus and the activities that you're involved in. And then students, if you want to give us a little bit of a sense of your own college decision, ultimately why you chose to enroll at Ursinus, that would be great. So Missy, let's start with you.
Hi, Sam. Thank you. My name is Missy Bryant, and I am the Dean of Students at Ursinus. So I work really closely with our student population as their voice to the administration and as an advocate for our student population. I also oversee a number of areas that I think many of you will be interested in hearing: safety, wellness, prevention, and advocacy. And I also very closely with student activities, the Institute for Inclusion and Equity, as well as the Institute for Student Success. So I'm hoping to share a lot of information with you about the resources we have on campus and a little bit about the ways that you can be involved as well.
All right, thank you very much, Missy. Kara, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Friedman. I am from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and on campus, I'm on the executive boards of B Naturals Acapella and Best Buddies. I'm a member of women's tennis. I see some tennis people in the chat. Part of Sigma 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 sorority. I'm involved in Students Today Alumni Tomorrow, which is our student and alumni group on campus, and I do student. The reason I chose Ursinus is because I really liked the size when I came to visit. I visited one small school, one medium-sized small schools. So this is a good place for me. I also knew I wanted to continue doing sciences, so obviously that's what I got to do. And yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Kara. Andrew, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm from Chicago. If there's anyone else from the Midwest, gotta keep that solidarity going. I'm an anthro and history with a focus on archaeology. I'm also a tour guide here on campus, and I'm one of the captains of the Ultimate Frisbee team at Ursinus. It was really one of the only schools that I felt like when I toured, they were actually interested in me as a student, as an individual on campus, beyond just the tuition money I was going to be bringing in. I felt that Ursinus actually really listened to me and admission and college application process. I got numerous one-on-one interviews. I remember talking with Sam when I had originally to the college, and it really made me feel like I was actually wanted, and the college was actually interested in having me play a role on campus.
Excellent, Andrew. I remember that as well. So Emily, you're up next. Excellent. Thank you very much, Emily, and thank you to all of our panelists for being here with us this afternoon. So the way is we have a few of our most frequently asked questions ready to go, and we're going to ask those of our panelists. But if any students are out there in the audience, specific questions that you really want answers to, go ahead and put those into the chat, and we will push those through, and we can have our panelists answer those for you in this off. With you, and obviously a big question that a lot of students have coming in to college is, and how does that process work for us here on Ursinus? And then also specifically, how is the roommate selection handled?
So housing selection at Ursinus, I think, is really unique in terms of how we house first-year students, and it's a really important part of the first-year experience in that all first-year students live together in one of two first-year centers, BPS, which is short for Beardwood, Paisley, and Stauffer, or BWC, student panelists shaking their heads. They, I'm sure, have a strong affinity to one or the other based on where they lived as first-year students. Shortly after orientation, normally we send out a housing preference questionnaire that asks a number of questions about habit, a very neat room, or are you a little messier? How do you like to study? Where do you like to study? How do you like music in the room? Are, you know, those kinds of questions to really give us a sense of how we might best pair roommates together. There's also an option on if you have had a chance to connect with another incoming student, you would have the opportunity to preference each other on that housing preference questionnaire. So as long as both of you would list each other as roommate selections, we would do our best to make sure that you get together in one of those two. Knowing that we probably will not be in person for a May orientation, but the housing preference questionnaire will still exist, and we'll be sure that we're communicating all of the information about how that will get out to you and be able to make that roommate selection or to complete the questionnaire with the answers to those various questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Missy. Missy, you touched on orientation, and obviously with everything going on, it may be different this year. But Kara, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your orientation experience and really what you got out of that as a student coming into your.
Yeah, so I remember happening this year, but I remember the May one being just a day, and we came, and that's the photo taken. I met my first year advisor in my cohort, and I did a lot of icebreaking. August, I remember that being, we moved in a couple days early, and we did a lot of icebreakers. Got to know a lot of the resources on campus, so campus safety and wellness and things like that, which was really special. And yeah, it was just a really fun, action-packed weekend, basically. And I didn't want it to end at all, but I just remember feeling comforted that I was on a campus that I knew and the people I was going to be with.
Great, thanks, Kara. And then Missy, Kara touched on a number of themes, but from your point of view, really, what's the goal of why are we doing it?
So really, our goal is going to be the same as what it is every year, even if we can't be in person for the first session of orientation. And that really is, that goal is connection, helping students to get connected to someone or something on campus. All of our research shows that students who find that kind of connection, whether it's to a faculty advisor or a roommate, for instance, that those students tend to be more successful and persist at college because they have found that kind of connection. And so all of the activities that we do at orientation, and Kara mentioned a good number of, are really important in starting that connection process. Just to give you a sense of what orientation is normally like, and then sort of what we're anticipating, In May and June, we will be doing some sort of remote orientation process where you will have a chance to meet with your first year advisor and get to know your advising cohort. Additionally, there will be a number of informational sessions about resources and various ways to get involved on campus. And then we're hoping that by the fall, we're able to do our in-person orientation where you would move back to campus. And again, as Kara mentioned, lots of icebreakers, lots of opportunity to build community with your RAs and the UC ambassadors, as well as really focus on the 4 main areas that we like to highlight within student affairs, independent, all of which tie directly into Ursinus Quest and the 4 questions.
Thanks a lot, Missy. That's well said. We have our roommates, we're in our residence halls, and then it becomes about the different clubs and activities that we do campus. So all of our students mentioned kind of briefly what they're involved in, but Emily, I know that you're particularly involved with a lot of our service initiatives on campus. What service may look like as a student on our campus? Yeah, that's fantastic, and it is. It's a fantastic way to get involved, to give back. We have a lot of students on campus who are involved in levels, and that really is going to vary, obviously, student to student. It's very malleable in that way. So thank you very much for your involved.
Yeah, I don't do half as many activities as the reincarnation of Mother Teresa, Emily, but I still do quite a lot of things. As I mentioned before, I'm captain of the Ultimate Frisbee team, which, as anybody will tell you, easily the most important and prestigious club in Ursinus history. Legacy. But in all seriousness, Ultimate Frisbee and club sports, intramural sports are an excellent way of getting around. You have fun, you mess around with your friends, and you meet new people. You can go and it's really just a good way of occupying your time, or right at the start during orientation and the early beginning. I had so much free time that I didn't know what to do with it. I kind of feel like I'm in quarantine almost. And they're excellent ways of getting to meet people. I've met a ton of my friends through Ultimate Frisbee. And if one intramural isn't to your liking, or one club isn't to your liking, or you see something, there's nothing really that interests you, you can just go ahead and make a club. Get a couple of friends, make the club. It'll take you like 25 minutes at the most. And it's fantastic ways of making friends.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. And yeah, it's that residential community. It allows, and like you said, you're able to make new clubs or organizations every single year, which is a great part for the students. Here we have a question from a prospective student. When can students get involved in Greek life, and what is that process like? Greek life has played a role in your Sinus experience as well. So if you want to delve into that a little bit.
Yeah, so Ursinus College has about 20% of all of its students in Greek life. It's not like you're forced to do it, you can do it. It's not a huge part of our campus culture at all, but it's something if you'd like to do it, you can do it. And 5 sororities, and I think everyone who's in Greek life really gets along very well. Network of people that you don't really get to know unless you're kind of in Greek life, but obviously everyone's very open to being with everyone. And the sorority I'm in is Sigma Sigma Sigma, so that's a national sorority. So we do have local sororities as well, but the one I'm in is just not.
Perfect, thank you. And then I also know that you have experience balancing academics with you. Talk a little bit about how that has impacted you.
Yeah, so for tennis, we have practices in the fall and the spring. We have a little 6-week season in the fall, 4 to 6, and so it's only for the first half of the semester, basically. So it's kind of nice because I get to get into the groove of things. I don't have as much time. How to time manage a little better and how to figure out my schedule and what works for me best so I can excel towards the end of fall semester as well. We have this spring semester, the spring season as well, so that's our main season. We start on February 1st or whatever the first, and we start inside at Kinetics, so we have a lot of varying times for that, which is season in March. We go to spring break in Florida, and then we come back and we start practice 4 to 6, kind of but it definitely teaches me how to time manage a little better, communicate with my professors, communicate with my teammates, coaches, and things like that.
I think you hit the nail right on the head in terms of just that time management, that communication. We've got students involved in all different areas, and so that's not going to athletes. Time management is very, very important as you make that transition from high school into college. But I'd love to kick it back just to the previous question, the role of Greek life on Ursinus campus.
Well, I think Greek life is a great way for students who are interested in it to really connect with one another and to focus on not only socialization, but also philanthropy and really being involved in the community in a way that is pretty unique. As Kara mentioned, there are a number of different organizations on our campus, some that are national, so chapters that exist all over the country. And then we also have local organizations founded and are unique to Ursinus. And so that's something that I think is pretty different about our Greek system. Most Greek systems consist mainly of national organizations, and we have a combination of national and local organizations here. And I think Kara did a great job of pointing out that not the only way to be social on campus or to be involved. So I don't think there's necessarily a lot of pressure to be an interest.
Awesome, thank you. So we have all of these opportunities for students on. Can you just shed some light on how do students actually go about finding these activities and getting involved? from Zariah. And Zariah asks, are Sinus students, is the majority of that social life held on including Philadelphia? So obviously we are right in Collegeville, but we're very, very close to King of Prussia. So Kara, could you talk a little bit about maybe some things that you're doing that aren't housed immediately right on our campus?
Yeah, so Student Activities Office has a bunch of events and activities planned on the weekends. A trip to the Nutcracker, a trip to King of Prussia, a trip to Philadelphia, sometimes the Phillies games, Eagles games, things like tubing last semester. And I couldn't go, so I was really bummed about that. But somewhere I frequent when I'm not on campus, looking at things that aren't school related. So a bunch of my friends at Forever Board will just ask him, hey, can we go to Target? I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Definitely. Thanks, Kara. Emily, what about you? Have you taken any trips off? Like we might be having some technical difficulties with Emily, so we're going to do our best to try and get her back in. But Missy, could you talk a little about some of the things that we are doing as an institution to encourage students to be getting off campus and exploring the communities around them?
So there are lots of opportunities for Ursinus to be out and about. So in addition to the student activities that Emily was starting to share and that Kara started talking about, there are opportunities through UCare, the Ursinus Center for Community Service. And so I think that's learn more about not only Collegeville, but our surrounding area, for instance, in Norristown, or even as far as Philadelphia in some cases. A really dynamic programming option for students. And so there are trips to Philadelphia that are about 15 minutes away. Sometimes there are trips to Movie Tavern in Providence Town Center, and oftentimes they're free for students, and sometimes students to get out and about in the community. And this will be a time where I might just throw in an additional piece of information in that your students, in that we don't allow them to bring cars to campus, because we want them to be on campus and to not have the pressure of friends around or that kind of ability to leave on the weekends. And so you'll see that most of our campus is here. They're engaging with each other in the various programs that we have to offer both on and off campus. And so that's something I think is important to note as well.
And we're hoping students are obviously engaged and immersed when they're on campus, but we do want them to be exploring the areas as well as an Ursinus community. So I think that is all fantastic. Thank you very much, Missy. Kara, I'd love to hear from you. A big question that we get from safe when you are on campus.
Yeah, so I have never felt unsafe on Ursinus' campus at all, ever. Feeling. But Ursinus actually doesn't have blue lights like other campuses would. We do have campus safety officers though. They're open 24/7, 360. That's really nice. They are available anytime. So if you feel unsafe walking back from the library at 2 in the morning to your dorm, we also just started an app called Mobile U, and that came out in December or January, somewhere around there. And they have a virtual walk home option. up. They can make sure you get there via campus safety and things like that. So there's always a lot of ways to feel safe, and of course, campus safety is always a cool name for it, but they're always around.
Thanks a lot, Kara.
And they always make me feel safe on campus.
Missy, would you have anything to add on the safety front?
I think it's also really important to know that we intentionally have campus safety. We see our safety officers as educators and not police officers. They are not sworn police officers. You'll see them in shorts and a button-down shirt that says campus safety. And we really want students to see them as resources. They're stress our values of independence, community, thoughtfulness, and leadership. And they do that in a way that is very much community oriented through the residential village and really talking with students on a regular basis. I think it's also important to note that we, in terms of students being able to get escorts across campus if they need to, or as Kara mentioned, using as a way to do a virtual walk home. It's also a way to subscribe, to have push notifications sent to you in the event of any. So that's another important aspect of the work that we do with campus safety. We also have a fire department and police department, both which are directly adjacent to campus. And so we work very closely. An aspect to know how quickly they could be on our campus if they need to be.
Perfect, thanks, Missy. Happy to have you. Could you tell us a little bit about what is the social scene like at Ursinus? So we've got all of these organized clubs, social scene. Excellent, thanks, Emily. Missy, would you have anything to add?
I think the only, maybe just a couple of things. I think Emily did a great job of really talking about how we do train our event directors in risk management, and I want everyone to know that we do obviously follow state and federal laws. Who are not 21 are not permitted to drink on campus, and the first year residence halls, no alcohol is permitted, not even be 21. At the same time, we think it's important that our students who are 21 are able to socialize using alcohol, and that's why we feel issues that may come up during a party are prepared to do that. And we do allow students who are not 21 to attend those parties, not permitted to drink.
Thanks, Missy. Andrew, welcome back. So we've got a question in the chat, and it's just talking about, events that are analysts. Are there any specific or sinus-focused events that you really look forward to every year? Are there specifics you'd like to share? So, Andrew, let's kick it off with you. Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, and Bear Bash is our annual concert that we host every year on campus. So it's awesome. Pancakes is a fan favorite for sure. Kara, what about you?
Grocery store bingo, that's my favorite. I think is really notable about school spirit is some of the sports teams do an exchange almost where women's tennis and men's tennis visit one of our tennis matches. So it's always really nice. And then on Saturdays we have dual matches. One will come out like fraternity brothers, sorority sisters, friends, family, everyone's there. And it's just a great time because I'd say every game or match or meet or anything like that. So you're always going somewhere and seeing something.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kara. Missy, favorite annual activities or school spirit memories?
Oh, my two favorite traditions are definitely convocation at the start of the academic very closely by graduation. It's a great way. They're kind of two bookend. Staff are here to welcome new students into our community, and then at graduation to send them off into the world, all that they've learned and acquired from Ursinus. So those are definitely two of my favorites. Pancake Study Break is a favorite for me also at the end. So a good way for people to kind of let loose and relax and get some good breakfast food in the middle.
Perfect, thank you. And for those keeping track at home, my favorite activity is definitely the pie eating contest. And there's a stage set up in the middle and loud music is blaring. you know it's time for the annual pie eating contest. So definitely a favorite for folks as question in the chat for you. And the student Amani is asking about diversity and inclusion on campus. Is there a Black Student Union? And I know we have our panel coming up.
Sure, absolutely. And Amani, I encourage you to attend that panel coming up. I think there will be a lot of great information for you. But we do really have an emphasis here at Ursinus on inclusivity, welcoming community. We work really hard to hire a diverse faculty and staff. Additionally, we have an Institute for and Equity, a place that does house a number of groups for traditionally marginalized students. There is for students that identify with the LGBTQ community. Additionally, we have a really vibrant life office on campus that really embraces all different kinds of belief systems and spirituality. I think really those two offices are places that students can go to find their niche, but also want to emphasize the fact that Ursinus has committed to being an inclusive and welcoming environment. And we have implemented in the last year a number of different initiatives, including conversations across difference that happen at least once during this pandemic, which I think is really an indicator of the commitment that we have to have something called the DART team, which is the Diversity Action Resource Team, which I am actually a part of, and it's really are committed to issues of diversity, and we do a lot of different programming on campus related to put out there. But again, I think the panel that's coming up will be another great resource for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Missy. So we've talked a little bit about pancakes. We talked a little bit about here. Andrew, I'd love to hear a little bit more just about your experience with the dining options on campus. Excellent. Thanks a lot, Andrew. And so a student actually asked, is the new Student Center open on campus? The Student Center, when we return to campus, that will be up for students and staff alike. So Emily, can you talk a little bit about some of the options that will be available in that center? Perfect. I can be found in there as well, so we can meet up, friends.
I was just going to say, I want to tell you how beautiful it looks right now. I know you all haven't been here, but as someone who lives on the perimeter of campus and gets the privilege of being on campus on a daily basis, it looks amazing. So I can't wait for y'all.
Yeah, it really is. It's spectacular. Kara, do you have a personal favorite meal on campus before we segue here?
Yeah, so in the morning for breakfast, I will always go to Upper Wismer because that's when I have the most time in the morning, which is a little sad, but it's okay. It's amazing. But for the rest of the day, it's kind of, I gotta keep moving a little bit, so I go to Lower Wismer a lot. Mozzarella sticks, because it's Mott's Monday. And Wednesday, you can catch me eating some chicken nuggets, because it's Chicken Nugget Wednesday. So those are some You can also catch me eating a lot of Sub Connections, which is our just Subway type food, and Tres Habaneros, which is our Chipotle almost.
Perfect. Thanks, Kara. I can also vouch for those. Many of us can, which is fantastic. Before we move on to our final question, it looks like there may have been a little bit of confusion around orientation this year. Yeah, I would throw it to you to set the record straight.
So I think someone had mentioned that orientation, and that's not the case. Unfortunately, we will not be able to be in person, face to face for what will be remote, but we're still planning to do an in-person orientation before the fall semester starts, if we're able to. The goal of getting students connected to the campus is happening, even if it has to happen remotely in May and June.
Perfect. Thanks, Missy. Okay, friends, so we've come to our final question. And for the students, it's very simply, what is something you wish you had known coming into your first year? If you could give advice to yourself in this situation as our prospective students are, what might that advice be? So Andrew, let's start with you. Exact figure on that bench press, Emily. So it's very impressive. Yeah. So Emily, what would your advice be? Yeah, I think that's well said. Making those connections, not being afraid to dive in, kind of step up and jump out. So Kara, what would you have for advice?
I think I have a couple things. One being, don't be afraid to go to office hours, ever. Just to make sure you're understanding your content and what you're doing in class, and sometimes it's just them. I know my research professor and I have a nice connection because I see him all the time. So it's like seeing professors like that on a and then the second thing I'd say is it's okay to social float. You don't have to be stuck to like the same branch out and meet new people, as Emily said, and kind of get involved with a lot. But I'm not saying it's like don't stick with the people. Branch out and learn about more people and social float, it might make your experience a little better too.
Terrific, Kara. Yeah, and actually yesterday at the academic, our faculty member had that same advice for students, which was really taking advantage of those office hours, building those relationships. So that's well said by you. What would you have for students coming in to be successful in that first year?
Well, you've gotten a lot already, so I echo so much of that. I think I would just say take advantage of all that Ursinus has to offer. Try something new. We're all here to support you and know that you can be successful, and we will do whatever we can to help in that regard. Students mentioned that I would just highlight, get to know your RA. They're a great resource. Get to know the staff in the institute. Faculty members' office hours, and really start making those connections early. There's resources on our campus, and you should be taking advantage of as many as you can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And a huge thank you to all of our panelists for taking the time. Any of the questions as we could, but I'm just going to shout out the Ask a Bear feature once again on our admitted student experience. If you have a question, get a chance to be answered here, make sure you send that along to us. So this is concluding our Campus Life panel. Make sure you tune back in our next panel on inclusion and equity. Until then, please continue to utilize the At Your Own Pace features of the admitted student experience. Be back here in just over an hour. Thank you very much, everyone. Go Bears.